Hello, I've got a video for you, and only because thanks to Cobblesticks, who commented on my last video from yesterday, and I just thought, oh, this is a good opportunity because I can answer this question here, of course. So I went to London yesterday to report on the judicial review, and Cobblesticks commented on the video saying, regardless of where you stand on this particular issue, I don't understand this over dramatization of the whole thing. Why is it spoken in the language of this is the fall of democracy and our beloved values? Is it really? And I just thought, what a perfect opportunity for me to jump in, because this is there's a good answer to this. And yes, Cobblesticks, I'm making this video for you. This is exactly what the channel's about. I want to share with you some of the things which I found. So my response to that was, that's just my style, Cobblesticks. I like to be a bit dramatic in my prose narrative. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I like that. That's just how I do it. I talk off the top of my head, and I sometimes like to make things sound more fanciful. But it doesn't mean that it's not based on facts and evidence which I'm unearthing here. I say, why should everything be plain and boring when it comes to reporting legal disputes? Indeed. Also, from my perspective, there have been some serious truths uncovered by pulling on this thread, which do raise questions about the health of our democracy and the forgotten values at its heart. And obviously, in a YouTube comment box, I can't go into a lot of detail. So I wrote that and I thought, right, here's the opportunity to make the video, and I'll start sharing these things now. And Cobblesticks has replied, okay, I don't think that necessarily means it's boring if someone reports without hyperbole. Fine. But again, it's my style. I'll do what I like. You're free to do what you like. But putting that to the side for a second, are you going to state then what these serious truths and forgotten values are? Exactly. Thank you, Cobblesticks, for giving me the perfect opportunity to start adding to this channel really what I'm getting at. So, to start with, let's look at the skeleton argument from yesterday, which the council's defence barrister submitted to the judge. Clearly there's a lot to it. I can't go into all of it. I'm not going to go into all of it. That's the reason why the court case ran on for over 3 hours yesterday, is because there's too much to do it. So I just want to focus on one thing, which for me is important and has implications for the rest of local democracy and the nature of our local council committee system, okay? So this is the point that I've been kind of driving at, or hoping that I'm going to be able to bring this out. So just bear with me while I pull this up. Alright, so here's the thing. This is the skeleton argument, which was sort of whizzed through yesterday by Charles Streeton, and he even ran out of time because there's too much to go into. So in one of his defences, his answer to the point about the blue badge situation, when Councillor Beckett confirmed during the meeting on the 7th of March, he said blue badge holders would be able to register 2 vehicles so that they could drive across the bridge. For example, you could give it to a carer or a family member who could come and drive to you to help you out. And then they voted on it, and then later on, about a week later, they said, actually, that's not true. The disabled person would have to be in the car for the exemption to apply. Therefore, carers wouldn't be able to get across the bridge. And so that is an error in law, or it's where they basically voted on false pretenses. This was one of the big grievances at the time. People thought, well, you said one thing during the debate and then you immediately backtracked on it. So what's that all about? Doesn't that void it? Now, Charles Streeton has pulled out this really interesting kind of legal principle. And he's mentioned it more than once. And for me, this is interesting because if this stands, this has implications about who the actual decision makers are and how accountable are the decisions which are taken which affect our lives. And this is where, in a moment, I'll go into the actual values of democracy that we're talking about. So, let me just find this. Here we go. Mistake of fact. So, he says, it is well established that where a committee follows the recommendations of officers, its reasons are taken to be those set out in the officers' report. So when they go into the committee, there's always an agenda pack with the officers' report, which basically summarises the points which they're going to be deciding upon. So that's the officers' report. They take the officers' report, and then the councillors debate on it, where you get to watch it, and sometimes you get to submit public questions, and then they vote, and then it becomes a thing. Now, if somebody says something wrong in the debate, and they all make a vote based on false, something that was incorrect, Charles Streeton's saying that that's irrelevant, because nothing that the councillors say during the course of a debate has any weight on the outcome of the debate, because it's all in the officer's report. So the claimant seeks to argue that the officer's report cannot be relied on as an adequate statement of reasons for the decision on the basis that it is, the claimant argued, inconsistent with the debate between members at the committee hearing. That submission is bound to fail. This reflects a fundamentally flawed understanding of the nature of local authority decision-making. Where a planning committee follows the advice of its planning officer, the reasons for its decision shall be taken to be those set out in the planning officer's report. It is wrong to seek to attribute significance to what is said by an individual member of a committee during debate and prior to any vote. That accords with a long line of previous authority relating to local authority decisions, which creates an insuperable problem for the claimant in seeking to raise the argument it advances. So, further, he says, in the next ground, and this is the one about the blue badges, he reiterates the same point. Even though Alex Beckett said that they would be able to, even though what Alex Beckett said was wrong, and he accepts that it was wrong, it doesn't matter, because it was said during the debate. And he said this over and over again. He basically, all of the things that are said during a debate, he says, doesn't matter, because they said it during the debate. Anything said during the debate doesn't matter. It's what's in the officer's report that's important. You can't pull up a decision or complain about a decision based on what the elected members of a committee said during a debate, because it was all in the officer's report to begin with. That's the point that he's making here, and this is the defence. Here we go. For the reasons already given, the claimant cannot rely upon that comment to found a public law challenge to the committee's decision. Seeking to do so is inappropriate and impermissible. The claimant's attempt to make a contrary argument flies in the face of the numerous authorities cited above. Ground 5 is unarguable for essentially the same reason. The claimant relies upon comments made by two members of the committee. But again, these comments were made during the course of debate, and there is again no dispute that the officer's report contained no material error in this. So we don't, rather than going into all of this, this is the skeleton argument that will become, available to the public at some point. The cats are fighting. Hang on. The point I'm making is, if again and again and again he says you can't make a legal challenge based on what committee members said, it's what's in the officer's report that's important. So for me, and this is just how I think, this is how it makes me wonder, if it was already in the officer's report and nothing that goes on during the debate essentially counts, the outcome of the debate was already decided by the officers who wrote the report. So that means the decision was decided beforehand and only went to a committee because it was the outcome is pre-decided by officers, not by councillors. Nothing that councillors say apparently means anything. So this is where we get into democracy, and this is why I'm asking you, Cobblesticks, what do you think about this? And everybody else who may be interested. If in a democracy you're supposed to have accountability and transparency, and decision makers have to be accountable to the public who their decisions are going to be impacting, how do we have democratic accountability if the decisions are being made by officers who we don't know how they came to those decisions, we don't know what is driving them, or who gave them the mandate, or they weren't elected? Where do they get the authority to essentially write the decision in an officer's report, which becomes essentially unimpeachable? You get a bunch of elected members of the public, 9 or 13 or 15 or however many there are in a committee. They vote on it. If it's a majority, it passes. And then you can't even challenge it. So from a democratic citizen's point of view, we have no redress. We have no legal recourse for anything which is done. And then that I wonder, when you start to apply that to everything which is going on in Cambridge, not just Cambridge, but around the country, development after development, roads being closed, unpopular decisions being made. If all of these things are being done by officers, not by members, elected members, the elected members are just doing what the officers tell them. This was my grievance to begin with. I just didn't have anything substantial to lay that criticism on. And again, I'm only here answering your question, Cobblesticks. I want you to see, there's lots to it. I just thought this was a perfect opportunity to actually zero in on this one point, because for me that one's been sticking in my mind. It's the officer's report that's important. Now, if the officer's report contains contradictions or errors of fact, then you can criticise it, or then you can challenge it in a court of law. But if the officer's report basically sets out, we're going to close the bridge, we understand it's going to cause problems, disabled people without blue badges are going to be affected, there's going to be displacement of traffic, blah, 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 blah. As long as they write that in the report, they've told you that they know the damage they're going to do. And therefore, there's no recourse against it, because they just told you what they're going to do. Now, from the average citizen, from the democratic public, who have no idea how the actual system really works, we've been kind of led to believe that we have elected representatives who are accountable to us. But that's not true, is it? We're proving that it's not true. Actually, they can do what they want, and if there is a small band of the public who are kind of mad enough and perturbed enough to actually mount a legal challenge, they have effectively infinite resources, professional barristers and lawyers and things who can put together all of these arguments, and they'll basically tear it all apart because of the fact that our grounds are based on things which councillors said during the course of a debate. And going on by this argument, nothing that is said in a debate has any outcome and therefore cannot be challenged in law. Alright, that's just one thing. I'm not going to go on and on and on, because it does take a while to make these videos, and I don't want to overload you. I just wanted to share that with you, Cobblesticks. What do you think about that? And when we're talking about democratic values, the overuse of consultations where you may get like 500 or 600 or maybe 1,000 or more people contribute. The officer's report gets to say 75% of people want us to do this, therefore we're going to do it. But they are also the ones who created the consultation. They use the consultations to essentially create the appearance of positive support, and then they put that in the officer's report, and then the elected members vote on it, and then it passes, and then there's nothing you can do about it. Also, add to this that the actual elected members themselves, who are supposed to be accountable, don't reply to emails when people complain or ask questions and things. They can just ignore you. So what are you supposed to do as a democratic citizen if a decision gets made which is going to impact you or impact lots of people in the negative, and then you watch it and you say, well, hang on, that wasn't fair because they lied during the debate, they manipulated the consultation, all of these things. What are you actually supposed to do? The answer is nothing, according to Charles Streeton. And this is what was so interesting yesterday, because the judge wasn't necessarily taking it, and he had some different interpretations to say as well, which I didn't quite understand. But this is why we want it to go all the way to the end of the hearing. We want it to have a full, substantial hearing where each of these arguments made by Charles Streeton get to be properly tested by a professional judge, and then our side's barrister also gets to put in her opposite point of view, because there are always arguments both sides. Us simple people down here on the ground, we have no idea the depths and lengths that the legal the points of law there are that can be plucked out and used to counter any argument. Anyway, I don't know if I did a very good job of explaining that one today. And there's always a risk that I'll go on and on and on. In my head, it sounds a lot better when I'm kind of preparing it, but there you are. What do you think, Cobblesticks? And thank you for asking the question. This is the point of the channel. This is exactly what I want out of it. I only have limited time, so I might not be able to make a video response to every question. But if people want to ask questions, then yeah, go for it. I'm not making all of this up. I've got so much information that it's impossible for me to share it all. That's the point. I'm only one man and I have a job, and these videos take time to create. That's why they're always so low tech. But there you go. You've got Charles Streeton's skeleton argument there, which is claiming again and again that the words of councillors during debates don't matter. And this was my original grievance, and I think this is something that a lot of people think anyway. Elected councillors, elected representatives are actually there to represent the agendas which are already in place by the officer, I suppose you could call them the officer class. And those are rarely transparent, not accountable, totally opaque in their decision making. We don't know whose interests they're working in. Oftentimes you can see clearly that there's some big money interests going on. And actually, elected councillors are just stooges plucked out of the public who may have had like 500 or 600 people vote for them in their little area, and then they become part of the system. They basically become the front man or the spokesperson for the agenda which is in play already. And as a member of the public, there's nothing you can do about it except talk about it. Hopefully, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing. And there's lots of people out there, well, not lots, but there are people out there who always want to criticize me and take everything I say and try and twist it into some kind of, mangled version of what I tried to say. I don't care about them, but I do get fed up with it. But I'm just wanting to share information so that you can make up your own mind, so that you can think about it. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just asking you what you think of this. And, who's doing that? Also, talking about the values of democracy a little bit longer, if you don't mind me going on for a bit longer. So we talked about accountability and transparency of decision makers, which we don't have, because it's the officers who make decisions behind closed doors and cannot be called to account on it. They cannot even be challenged in law. There's another value of democracy, which is the freedom of information and the freedom of press. Now, we definitely don't have freedom of press in this country, and we don't have freedom of information either. We have an attempt of it using social media nowadays, but even that is fraught with difficulties because of algorithms and the possibility of things being deleted by moderators who don't agree with what you say. See my previous videos about the next door situation. And then on the other side of it, you've got campaign groups who, again, are unaccountable, unelected. You don't necessarily know who they're working for or who they're set up by, but then they go out and campaign for the changes which the council are trying to put in. and their paraphernalia and their pamphlets are filled with lies anyway. And there's another video as well which I could point you to. It's a few months ago called "Calling Out the Lies," where you've got this group, Mill Road for People, who put this pamphlet out, which is just full of 8 points there, which I point out are not true. So you've got a small group of people of 1,000 or so campaigning using lies and rhetoric and misleading information in order to promote a council agenda whose decision makers are unaccountable. And then when I try to talk about it, my posts get deleted and they write shit about me in the newspaper. I wrote the book just so I could show people what was going on. Anyway, I don't know how this has gone, this video, but there you go. That one was for you, Cobblesticks. There's much, much more to it. I hope that you keep going and try to see. I'm not here stirring up anything. I'm only trying to tell people what is going on, what I've found. I'm trying to highlight an issue which the newspapers are not reporting on. There isn't anybody else actually reporting on it. If you want to report on it, go ahead. Anybody's able to do it. Everybody's phone has got recording equipment, microphones in it, editing software in it. You can upload anything you want to the internet these days. If you want to start reporting on it, just go and pay attention to it. Make videos, make sound recordings, start writing a blog, whatever. Just do it. I'm not stopping you. And, we can carry on this conversation. Anyway, I'll end it up with that. So we can go on and on and on and on and on about the values of democracy. It's part of what I'm into. I like it. And anyway, that's it. I'm going to call it. Apologies if this was slightly rambling, and the camera angle had to be up here because I can't find my tripod anywhere, so it's resting up here on the shelf. And I'm going to post this and see what you think, Cobblesticks. Reply if you want, or maybe think, and ask other people what they think as well. Goodbye.